Hello folks, and today we're going to take absolute crispy digital images and make them look old and crappy. It does sometimes feel like we've come full circle with photography, that we have incredibly powerful digital cameras now that can get super sharp, in focus, crispy, beautifully high dynamic range shots. But the emotion isn't necessarily there, and a lot of photographers are now yearning for a more analog, organic-y type feel, essentially making your pictures a little bit crappier. But there, of course, is more to it than that. And this week I'm going to be looking at a piece of software called Dehancer. Now, Dehancer have reached out to me to do a review for their software. They were very laboured the point in their email that it didn't have to be a positive review. I've got complete freedom in what I say, and they're not paying me for it, but they are providing me with the software, so that's important to say. So you may have seen other people reviewing this software. There's quite a lot of videos out there on how to use it, tutorials, things like that. So I'm not going to try and add to that really, because there's loads of stuff there already. I'm going to look at something really quite specific, and the thing that really made me excited when I first saw the software, because I noticed that out of the different film emulations that they do, and that's the main thing that it does, is trying to emulate old school film. Is that one of the film stocks that they do is Fujifilm Velvia 50, which for the very brief period that I was shooting on my borrowed camera, my dad's camera, doing expedition photography, some of the first trips that I went on as a sort of late teenager, early 20s, were shot on 35mm film, and Fujifilm Velvia was what I went for. I spent most of my earnings from the garden centre on film rolls for this camera, and it's incredible to think now really that I would go away on a month-long trip with maybe 3 rolls of film, and that would be my lot. So that excites me, the fact that they've got a preset button that I could press and potentially make it look like my old beloved photographs. But memory and nostalgia can be a strange thing, so in order to do a proper comparison, I want to look at the software, get to grips with how that works. I've also got a current project for a youth theatre that I'd like to have a look at and see whether I can give it a bit of a vintage feel to that as well, but in black and white. But the first job is to see how well it emulates my one of my favourite films, the Fujifilm Velvia 50. So I know I've got some slides that I developed from a trip that I did. I think it was the year 2000 or 2001. I think we were about 18 or 19. It was my first trip up to the Arctic, and that was my sort of first trip where it's super challenging to get photographs. We had temperatures of down to -48. I didn't really know what I was doing, but did come back with some shots, which are great memories. So I'm going to try and dig those out and see if we can scan them in and do a like-for-like comparison. as a starting point, I've scanned in some shots from the Arctic trip, and these aren't the best shots in the world by any manner of means, but they just really remind me of the film stock. Just to give a sense, you can see we've got quite a bit of damage, which of course we could clear up in post, but this is the sort of effect that I would expect a film emulation thing to be coming out with for Velvia. I don't remember that much grain from the film, and you've got to bear in mind this is scanned in, it's not the original, but there is quite a bit of articles there. We've got a lot of bloom around the edges of things. I've picked this photograph obviously because it's going from a dark to a completely overexposed patch, essentially picking out problems in photographs rather than the good stuff. I'm going to go to an internal shot. My mate Stoney looking incredibly young, and this gives a sense of some of the halation, as they call it, that kind of red glow around light sources. This is the fire that's coming up from the middle, but we can also see it in some of the highlights coming through here. Another example of this is all the light coming through the outside of the lavu, like a Scandinavian teepee. Very young Ray Mears there as well. And we can kind of see it in all these bits of grain and all of that. External shot now that's actually very well exposed, all things considered. I think, considering this is taken on film and scanned in, I think beyond the sort of trained eye, you would expect this to be digital. You can see grain when you get in really close, but that's all digital artifacts. I don't think that's got anything to do with the film stock. So this again is kind of what I'd be expecting to come out with in terms of colour. Always remember Velvia as being quite rich in colour and contrast. And then finally, let's just look at a photograph that is actually really badly taken, but instantly looks quite vintage inside the airport. You've got a lot of bloom around the light sources. It's actually, although it's badly exposed, it has limited the highlights quite a bit, because you've got a massive tonal range going between the dark of Stony in the foreground towards the lights at the back. So it has captured an awful lot by comparison with a digital camera. You can see a little hair article there, lots of dust. So let's jump into Dehancer and see how it compares. So I've recently been doing a project with a youth theatre and recording some of their rehearsal times. So if we go into Dehancer, let's see whether we can make these shots look a bit like some of those demos that I saw. I've done all the installation process. I'm not going to talk about that in this video because there's loads of videos out there on how to do it, but I've now got it as a shortcut that I can go straight into Dehancer with it. So when we first come into Dehancer, it will automatically go to whatever you used last, which must have been this. I don't even remember doing that. The other film stock that I used to use quite a bit is Provia, and that brings out lovely warm tones, really, really good. But the film stock, as I say, that I used to use an awful lot is the Velvia 50 and 100, and they have quite different colours to them. But the one that I was using in the Arctic was this Velvia 50. That's quite interesting. We need to almost instantly do a side by side, but I'm going to resist trying to do that and just try and use some of the features on Dehancer. So you've got a lot of the normal sliders that you might expect, like exposure compensation, that gives you a little bit of correction. I'm going to take that down just that smidgen, so that I've got a little bit of light from the windows. If you've got any artifacts around the edges of your subject, you may want to increase the amount of defringe, because that comes in quite a bit, but I'm quite happy with what it's got. The film developer does a lot of what we would have done in the darkroom, so we can change the contrast as we see fit. I actually kind of liked it how it was. If you want to reset anything, you can just hit the reset tab. Gamma correction is your midtones, so it will either take the midtones up towards the highlights or down towards the lowlights. Oh yes, that doesn't work when you've got contrast boost on 0. So if I just put that up on 3, we'll then see the midtones going up and down. Not a huge amount, but a little bit. Color separation. Doesn't seem to do a huge amount. What I'm going to do, because there's a massive manual on this and you could spend an entire day just talking about all these sliders, so I'm just going to skip through ones that I'm not that interested in, but I'm sure some people will be, and it's worth exploring all of them. But just for the sake of the brevity of the video, I'm just going to go to the ones that excite me the most. Film compression is a really interesting one. So if I switch that off, we can see that a lot of the highlights are a lot more blown. Switch it back on again, and it's just recovered a lot of those highlights. It kind of simulates what you would get from film stock of stopping a lot of those highlights from clipping. So that's more towards the digital end of things. That's more towards the extreme film, and I think roughly, I think they had it on 60 originally, but I'm going to put it up to 80. That works quite well, and I can adjust what it believes to be that white point in terms of the clipping as well. So we can recover quite a bit of data that way and make it look a little bit more filmic. And then something I am interested in is film grain. I'm going to switch that on, and if I zoom in, we can see we've got grain forming. So let's switch that on, switch that off. That's off, and that's on. So it's just giving that film effect. We can customize this as well. So I would have been on 35mm ISO 50, and that gives me a grain effect as I would have with the film stock that I was using, which is cool. Obviously you can change all of those different things depending on what you want to do. I'm not going to do that at the moment. If I switch bloom off, you can just see, it's quite subtle actually, but anything that's got good old highlights on it. So this performer's arm is quite a good example actually, if we go in on that. So if you just watch around her arm, if I switch the bloom off, it's kind of just picking up the highlights. Bloom on, and you get a lot more kind of glow blooming coming out of those highlights. So again, off, on, gives a really nice effect. All of those are adjustable. Look, film damage, I wouldn't necessarily use all the time, I don't think, but I would definitely use it if I had a project where I wanted to make it look like a proper old shot. So let's go 35mm full frame, and that has made it look damaged. It's true. I think that probably makes it look a little bit too damaged in a way. I wonder what the other ones look like. Oh crikey, yeah, super damaged. If we go to custom, we could be a lot more selective. So I could take the hairs off, for example. I can reduce the amount of dust. Scratches I definitely want to reduce. Take the scale element down a bit, maybe reduce the amount, and then we're looking at quite a tatty scanned in image. So that's pretty cool. And then if you do want the overscan effect, where you get the framing, that really kind of hammers home the fact that you're going for a vintage effect, then you can switch that on. I think I'd probably only do that for novelty value, but we're definitely looking at an image that could have been taken back in the day on analog. I love a bit of vignette, so we can put that on, and of course have different effects on how that might look. Keep it about there. I'm actually going to take that overscan off because it's quite hard to do a like-for-like comparison with that one. And I'm going to leave it like that. Let's take that back into Lightroom and we can look side by side. So here we have a slightly damaged image of some meat hanging in a teepee. I appreciate these are not comparable images, but we've got a nice bit of damage on it, water spots and things. And then we go to this one. The grain is actually very similar, and bloom. It's obviously much cooler. If I cool this one down so it's a bit more like for like, maybe. Yeah, it is definitely possible. I'm quite impressed with that. So for our next little experiment, what I want to do is give this photograph a bit of a filmic look. As I say, I've been shooting some rehearsal shots for a youth theatre. So what I want to do is make this black and white and give it a bit of a vintage feel. So a couple of things I'm going to do in Lightroom first before I go into Dehancer is I'm going to give it a 4x5 crop, which I prefer anyway. Stick our subject kind of in the middle so we've got the performers in the background. I really like this light that's coming from the windows. The light overall was absolutely shocking, but I'm hoping that will work in our advantage to give that vintage feel. The ISO on this one was actually only 320. Most of the shots I came back with, it was more up into 2000s and higher. But when I sharpen that up, we can see that we're starting to get a little bit of noise, not a huge amount, but just a little bit. So what I have done is I've run it through the denoiser in Adobe to take all that noise out. Now I'm pretty happy with the basics. I'm going to put it into Dehancer, edit in, down to Dehancer, and yes, I want those Lightroom adjustments with it. It is interesting when you first come in that you could put it on pretty much any of these film stocks and suddenly the image becomes just better. It's gone from quite a boring digital image to something that's got a bit of life and vibrance to it. Be happy with kind of any of these film stocks just to suddenly elevate it and turn it into quite a usable image. It's quite brilliant from that point of view. And of course it will give all your images the same look. Classic bit of portrait, 800. 400. But what I want to use on this one is a black and white. So I've actually already been processing a lot of these photographs, and you can use the heart to make some of them a favourite. So if I go back to presets, the one that I've been enjoying for these images is a type 42, and if I apply that one, there we go. And you can see that this is a production of Everyone's Talking About Jamie, so it's Jamie and then the profile, so it's pretty much the profile. All I've done is changed a little bit in the contrast boost and taken the grain off because I was not enjoying the grain. If I put it back on, so this is what it looks like straight out of the box. And I've just switched that off to give it a slightly more contemporary look. So if I go back to the original, we've got a fairly rudimentary normal shot with those Dehancer film-like adjustments. We've got an image that's sort of worthy of the program. I think I really like the way that it deals with the tonality in the image. And of course now I'm happy with what I've got. As I say, I've turned that into a preset, and every image that I want to have the same look, I can just click on that, and I'll have the same look throughout my whole library that I can provide to the client. Click on OK, and it will magically appear back in Lightroom. So that for me has been an interesting quick spin around the Dehancer software. The ultimate question, I suppose, is it worth the outlay, the money? It's very nice playing with it for free, but would I be looking to spend £300, $300 on it a year? And that is a far trickier one. I think if I had a specific project that I was working on, and then possibly, maybe, I think the sort of in-house filters that you have in things like Lightroom, and it will be interesting to see how this behaves in DaVinci and film software as well, because that's where I'm getting really excited to use it in a current film project. But in terms of photography, there are so many free LUTs and profiles that you can get. I think I'd find it hard to justify the amount of money. That said, this by far and away does the best job of anything that I've tried so far. So that's not taking away its sophistication, like it definitely does do a better job. Is just, could I justify that amount of money? Just sort of play around with different film stocks. I'm not sure that I could really. I think that will be a question to be had more on the video side of things with a more commercial output, and we'll look at that when we come to that video. Overall though, really lovely intuitive software. It's been really fun playing around with the film stocks. Part of the problem is actually too much choice of, like, every single film stock you look on has a different effect and a really nice look to it, so it's quite hard to pick which one you want to use for each project, but it definitely gives an overall look and feel to a set of photographs, which I've really loved. So a big thank you to Dehancer for letting me play around with your software. Really enjoyed myself, and look forward to trying a few more things out, and perhaps I'll make another video on that as time goes on. But as a first sort of jump into it, really impressive stuff. Been good fun. Thanks so much as always for watching, folks. It's been a busy old time over the last few weeks, so I'm sorry I haven't been able to get as many videos out as I would have liked to have done. I've got quite a few on hard drives waiting around to be edited, and they'll be coming out in due course. But I hope you found this video about the Dehancer Lightroom plugin useful. If you have, please give us a like and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any future videos coming through. If you do fancy having a go at this software, giving it a bit of a trial, I'll leave a link below, and there's also a discount code should you want to take the plunge and use it all the time. Thanks folks, see you in the next one.